Hey guys, welcome to this Photoshop tutorial by Photoshop Rulers. This tutorial is about grass text effect. It was a request from my friend Bishal. So let's get started. Open up a new document. Make sure the dimensions are as follows. Width to be 1920 and height to be 1200. Hit OK. So first let's remove the lock from this layer, and we need to add some color to this layer. We'll be doing this with the help of this gradient tool. Make sure the colors you're using are as follows. The first color to be ADBF41 and the second color to be 328A26. Hit OK. Make sure you're selected radial gradient. Click and drag the mouse to apply the gradient. Let's open up a grunge texture. Control O. I'll provide you a link in the description on where to download these textures. Open up a texture with the help of move tool, bring it onto the gradient background. Use Ctrl T free transform tool to transform the texture. To increase or decrease the size, just meddle with it. Hit enter when you're done. Use Ctrl Shift U to desaturate the layer. Set the blending options to overlay. Open up another texture. Hit OK. Use the move tool again and bring it onto our image. Resize it as you wish, don't overdo it. Hit enter when you are done. Change the blend mode to overlay again. Change the opacity to 70% and desaturate it. Ctrl Shift U. Select a new layer. Take the brush tool, an airy brush tool with hardness 0. Make sure the foreground color is black. Draw a line along the edges of the layer, and it doesn't need to be perfect, just do a quick outline. Change the blend mode to overlay. Change the opacity to 30%. There you go. It turned out to be good. So let's close these images. Now let's open up our grass picture. I'll provide you a link in the description of this picture also. Just open it and type the text which you want. Select the type tool. Make sure the font is franchise. I'll give you a link for this font also. Type in Earth. Change the size. Yeah, this seems pretty good. Change the color to white and make sure you have turned down the opacity to 50%. Now select the pen tool. Make a rough selection along the letters using the font as a reference. Just do a rough work, it does not need to be precise. Make sure you select a few strands of grass along the selection so that it gives a realistic effect. You don't need to be precise, just follow what I'm doing and you'll be good. If you are new to the pen tool, then don't get afraid, it's very easy to use. If you screw something up, you always have the undo. Control Z. Don't overdo it, you'll spoil the texture. Make sure you select only a few strands of grass along the letter. I'm warning you now only, it's a pretty tiresome process, so get ready for some tiresome work. So just quickly select around the letter. You have to repeat this 5 times, that is for 5 letters.
Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style. 낮에는 따사로운 인간적인 여자 커피 한 잔에 여유를 아는 품격 있는 여자 밤이 오면 심장이 뜨거워지는 여자 그런 반전 있는 여자 너는 선어해 낮에는 너만큼 따사로운 그런 선어해 커피 식기도 전에 원샷 때리는 선어해 밤이 오면
Once your selection is done, go to the paths palette. You can go to window and select path. Click on the work path and look for the option load path as a selection. Click it, your path will be selected. Make sure the grass layer is selected while moving. Use the move tool to bring out the selection onto the gradient image. Place the letter wherever you wish. Make sure you have place for the remaining letters. So yeah, that looks perfect. Let's merge the layers of the background image. Control click the layers and right click and select merge layers, and then rename the merge layer to background. Rename the letter E to just E. Make 4 copies of this image. You can duplicate these images by pressing Ctrl J. Just make 4 copies. Press Ctrl J 4 times. Select 2 layers at a time and move them into a group. Just move them into a group. Select the other 2 and move them into another group. Rename uh, rename the first group to be E and rename the second group to E shadow. Let's get started with our 3D effect. Select the E group and right click on one of the layer. Select blending options. First use bevel and emboss. Make it an inner bevel. Use the technique to be smooth, the depth 100%, the direction to be up. Change the size to 10 pixels. Uncheck use global light. Select the contour which I am using and change the highlight mode opacity to 16 and the shadow mode opacity to 25%. Now let's get on to the satin layer style. Change the blend mode to screen. Change the opacity to 13%. Use the distance 11 and the size to be 14 pixels. Select a green color. Change the color to green. Use any green, but I prefer the green on our background. So yeah, this looks good. Change the contour to ring contour, or you can see the image of my contour. Hit OK. There you go. Now let's add effects to the above layer. Right click and select blending options. You can first we'll start with drop shadow. Select the blend mode to be multiply, opacity to 34%. Uncheck use global light. Change the distance to 2 pixels and size to 1 pixel. Leave the contour and the rest of them as they are. Now come to bevel and emboss layer style. Just change the size to 1 pixel. Uncheck use global light. Change the highlight mode opacity to 0 and the shadow mode opacity to 100%. Change the opacity of this layer to 50%. Okay. Now we have to give shadow effects to our layers. First, in the E shadow group, select a layer and control click that layer. The layer will be selected. Make sure your foreground color is black. Use alt backspace to fill that layer with black color and use control D to deselect. Use the free transform tool. You with the help of the arrow keys move the darkened layer. Press the left arrow key once and the down arrow key once and hit enter. Now we have to duplicate this transform operation again and again. So for that we have a shortcut on the keyboard. Use Ctrl Alt Shift T. This basically repeats the last transform operation. As you can see, with the help of this tool, the text is getting a real 3D effect, but it also creates a duplicate layer each time you use the command. So let's merge them all together. The letter has been given a 3D effect, but it needs to cast a shadow. So for that we'll go to filter, select blur, go to motion blur, make sure the angle is 45 degrees and the distance to be around 30 to 50. I'm using about 40. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, hit OK. With the help of the move tool, just bring down the shadow, and to make the shadow look more lively, press Ctrl F. It repeats the last filter operation. Press it for about 2 to 3 times. You will get a realistic shadow effect on the text. Now let's select the last layer in the shadow group. Use transform tool and just move it little bit to the bottom side. Hit enter. Use the burn tool. With the help of this burn tool, we can give depth to our text. Just burn around the edges. You can see that the burn tool has given certain amount of depth to the layer. So one letter down and 4 to go. Quickly come back to our grass picture. Use Ctrl D to deselect. Again select the pen tool, and this time we'll mark out the letter A. Once you marked out the letter A, it's again the same procedure. We have to find the path tab. We have to load our path as a selection, and we have to repeat the same process like the one we did for E. So once the selection is done, use the move tool and bring the letter A to our actual image. Place it around neatly, and again hit Ctrl J and make 4 copies. Select 2 layers and drag them into a group. Select the remaining 2 and bring them down to another group. This time we'll rename the groups to A and A shadow. So let's start off with A. We'll have to give it a 3D effect. We'll copy the 3D effects from our E tab and paste it onto our A tab. Make sure you're doing that properly. Right click on the E tab and select copy layer style. Come back to A, right click on the layer and select paste layer style. Repeat the same for the remaining one layer. Copy layer style and paste it onto the A tab. Paste layer style. So there we go. The 3D text has been given. Now we have to impart shadow onto our letter A. So again we'll have to control click a layer and make sure your foreground color is black, and use alt backspace to fill it with black color. Press Ctrl D. Use Ctrl T and again use Ctrl Alt Shift T. Repeat the same process which we did for letter E. You know the routine, right? Merge those layers. So once this done, we'll have to add motion blur to the letter A. Go to filter tab, and the first option you'll see is motion blur. The shortcut key is defined as Ctrl F. Press Ctrl F 2 to 3 times. Be sure you're satisfied with your shadow and just move it around. Make sure all the shadows are cast in the same direction. Once you're done with the shadow, now it's time for adding depth to our letter A. So we'll again use this burn tool for this job. Select the burn tool, quickly burn around the edges. The process is same for all the letters, and turn back the visibility. Make minor adjustments if you want. The beauty of the picture lies in its details. Let me just do it. So now we are done with E and A. It's time for R, T and H. Now I've shown you already 2 times how to do it. So I'm fast forwarding R, T and H.
오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 낮에는 따사로운 인간적인 여자 커피 한 잔에 여유를 아는 품격 있는 여자 밤이 오면 심장이 뜨거워지는 여자 그런 반전 있는 여자 너는 선어해 낮에는 너만큼 따사로운 그런 선어해 커피 식기도 전에 원샷 때리는 선어해 밤이 오면 심장이 터져버리는 선어해 그런 선어해 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 그래 바로 너 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 그래 바로 너 지금부터 갈 때까지 가볼까 오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 오빤 강남스타일 에이 섹시 레이디 오빤 강남스타일 에이 섹시 레이디 정숙해 보이지만 놀 땐 노는 여자 이때다 싶으면 묶었던 머리 푸는 여자 가렸지만 웬만한 노출보다 야한 여자 그런 감각적인 여자 나는 선어해 점잖아 보이지만 놀 땐 노는 선어해 내가 되면 완전 미쳐버리는 선어해 근육보다 사상이 울퉁불퉁한 선어해 그런 선어해 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 그래 바로 너 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 그래 바로 너 지금부터 갈 때까지 가볼까 오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 오빤 강남스타일 에이 섹시 레이디 오빤 강남스타일 에이 섹시 레이디 뛰는 놈그 위에 나는 놈 베이베 베이베 나는 뭘 좀 아는 놈 뛰는 놈 그 위에 나는 놈 베이베 베이베 나는 뭘 좀 아는 놈 You know what I'm saying 오빤 강남스타일 섹시 레이디 오빤 강남스타일 섹시 레이디 오빤 강남스타일
The main part of our image is completed. Now let's add a highlight to our image. Create a new layer. Select the gradient tool. Click on the gradient tool. Change the color. Double click on the stop to change the color. Make sure the opacity of the left hand above stop is 100% and the right hand above stop is 0%. Make sure that the colors are as follows. Left hand top to be black, left hand bottom to be white, and both stops on the right hand side should be white. Hit OK. Click and drag the mouse to add the highlight to our picture. Go to the layers tab to edit it further. Bring down the opacity to about 40%. Bring down the fill opacity to 90%. You can even change the blending options to overlay. Doing this adds a subtle amount of highlight to our image. It's all part of the detailing. Let's add a few more elements to our picture to give it a little more detail. I'm opening the pictures of a butterfly and a ladybug. The link to download these pictures is in the description. Use the magic wand tool and separate the insects from their backgrounds and bring them onto our main image. Use the free transform tool to customize the insect. Just place it randomly on any letter, or you can just follow what I'm doing. Now let's bring in the butterfly image. Again we'll use the free transform to reduce the size. By holding control and dragging the corners, you can give perspective to your images. Resize it and place it on any other letter. Now placing the images has been done. Let's add a 3D effect to these two insects as well. Go to layer tab, rename those layers for your convenience, and right click on any one of the layer and select blending options. We'll select drop shadow. Use the cur- use the cursor to change the angle of the shadow. We'll use bevel and emboss. Just change the angle and the altitude values. Hit OK. We'll copy this layer style and paste it onto our ladybug layer as well, so that both have similar effects. You can even add it. You can even add. You can even customize your image by giving it a little more detail. So I'm adding a caption to our image. This is just a random caption. You can use Ctrl T to transform the text layer as well. Change the color accordingly. The main part of the image is completed, or rather most of the image is completed, but I'm giving it a little more detail. Select a new layer over our background layer. With the brush color as black, just draw a rough outline around the edges of the picture. Change the blending option to overlay. Change the opacity to 49%. And that's it. This is the grass text effect. Thanks for watching this video. Hope this was helpful. Subscribe to our channel for more videos.
오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일